And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of Doing the Work, the first show on the Back Home Network dedicated to covering IU women's basketball. Victorious episode of Doing the Work. I am your host, Kathy Amos, and I am joined today by my co-host, Jeff Marlowe. And today we are discussing your Indiana #1 seed Indiana Hoosiers win over their opening opponent, Tennessee Tech, 77-47, as we have now officially started the NCAA tournament for the women. This takes our women's record on the entire year to 28-3. But as always, we will start our show the way we do every show, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And Jeff, for me, I think I'm going to start off actually pretty early in the game because I think it was a really important storyline that I'm sure we'll touch on throughout the episode here today, and that was Mackenzie Holmes being out. So she had a knee injury that was re-aggravating her knee from last year in the Big Ten tournament, and that happened in the first game of the Big Ten tournament against Michigan State. And she was held out today with limited availability and ended up not playing because of that knee soreness. And that really made it important for our bench to step up. And in this case, that was Lily Meister. Lily Meister got her first start today in her Indiana career, and it was in front of a 14,000 plus attendance fans for Indiana and in an NCAA tournament. And even though the opponent was Tennessee Tech and was expected to win it pretty quickly, or not quickly, but pretty easily, I thought it was really important for Lily to come in and do, a really fantastic job. And for me, then, that banner moment was watching how she opened up the game. And, we opened the game with Tennessee Tech hitting a 3 to open. We came down and missed one of our shots, but then got it back. And then Grace found Lily down below, and Lily made that shot and then got fouled and converted at the free throw line for an and one attempt really early on to the game. And I thought that set the tone for Lily coming in off our bench, which I thought was really important for her to be giving us good moments and minutes. And so seeing that right at the beginning of the game, I thought set the tone for the whole team, with Grace being active, with Lily coming in and giving us good points. And for me, I thought that was our Hoosier Proud banner moment because to me, it just embodied what this team has been all year and really came up again in this game, which was teamwork, right? This was a lot of players coming in, both off the bench or getting their first start or starting as normal. And I thought they contributed in all of their own way. And I thought this play really highlighted that. We had our star player in Grace finding our freshman coming in for her first start. And to me, that was our Hoosier Proud banner moment. But as always, our banner moment is sponsored by Home Field Apparel. Home Field is constantly releasing new schools or updating their product lines for schools in their existing line. So you're bound to find something for you or anyone in your life that loves great collegiate gear. And of course, with March Madness going on, you can keep your eyes out for new stuff coming constantly. And for me, for example, I signed up for their mystery box that we get every 2 shirts every week here throughout the tournament, highlighting different teams in the tournament. We got our first one the other day. Was really exciting to see. So it's really great to have that come out. And I'm guessing they might come out with a Fairleigh Dickinson shirt here pretty soon into the future if they haven't announced one already yet today. But again, for us, I think it's important to go out and look at Home Field Apparel because they did just release last week 4 new IU women's shirts. They're highlighting Grace and Mackenzie, a joint shirt with Grace and Mackenzie together, and then one for Coach Morin. So go out there and check that out if you haven't. And if you've not shopped at Home Field Apparel, you can find them at homefieldapparel.com. Use our promo code HOME to get 15% off your first order, and then go back again and buy some more stuff later. Again, that website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right. Well, now we're going to kick it over to Coach Marlowe for his opening thoughts in our Coach's Corner. So, Jeff, what are your initial thoughts about today's game?
Well, make sure I mute myself. Yes. I thought, first of all, just the defense had to get locked in. I thought we got off to a really shaky start defensively. We allowed them to be too comfortable shooting the 3 in the first quarter. But I thought once the second quarter began, I really felt like the defensive pressure, the defensive intensity, and the game plan really started to click together. When you look at, over the last 3 periods, we outscored them 59 to 29. I mean, it's a 30-point ball game, basically. No, sorry. Yeah, 59-29 over the last 3 quarters. I'm going to also pick up on what you're talking about a little bit with Grace or with Mackenzie being out. And again, it wasn't quite the production, but if you combine Lily Meister and Alyssa Geary, they provided 10 points, 7 rebounds, 4 blocks. And 1 steal. So you weren't getting obviously Mackenzie Holmes numbers, but you got something out of that position. It wasn't just it wasn't a donut there. It wasn't 4 people around, somebody being plugged into the lineup. And we were texting back and forth. And I made the comment, I think Alyssa Geary is going to get maybe some of her most extended run that she's seen all year. And this is part of the reason why Alyssa Geary's here. I think, from the standpoint that her experience, having been around, played a lot of games, she was ready to go. And I thought that showed, and I thought she had a really, it didn't show up in the scoring column, but I thought she had a really solid game today, as did Lily. But I thought once they got pace going, once they were able to get some defensive stops and push the tempo, both second quarter and then in the third and the fourth quarter, the offense really started to click. And you look at, again, I don't want to go too deep in numbers here in this segment, but, without your leading scorer, without your first team All-American, you had 3 players in double figures. So obviously that was a good sign for today. Now, we'll talk a little bit later about what this means going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely agree with all of that, Jeff. There's, again, I think we'll talk about a number of players today that really stepped up again. And this has just been a theme, I think, of the whole season for us. So maybe that's a great segue for us to go ahead and jump into and talk about what went as expected today. So Jeff, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What is one thing you want to talk about that went as expected for the team today?
Grace Berger. I'll just go simply to the leadership that we think that we have come to expect from Grace Berger. And I thought it was interesting that she did not play with a brace on today. I thought she was moving as fluid as we've seen her since the injury. Grace Berger, and you look at what she was doing today, she was, I think I may have texted you, maybe I was texting somebody else in group chat that Grace Berger, or maybe I put it on Twitter, Grace Berger was going to put this team on her back today and will them to a win. I think they watched the game last night, that team up north that was a 1 seed that couldn't get out of the first round. I think they saw that. I think they wanted to make sure they didn't have that kind of fake. I'll bet they knew last night for sure that Mackenzie wasn't going to play. At least the players did. The team, the staff, the players knew. So I'm sure they watched that game going, yeah, we may be down with somebody, but and a first team All-American, but we got to be ready to play. And what did you get? Just what we expect from Grace Berger.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with our defense. So we kind of had a little bit of a rough start. We knew that Tennessee Tech liked to shoot the 3 ball. If you watched their play-in game against Monmouth at all, or even just looked at their stat line, they definitely liked to shoot a lot of them. They have around 20 attempts per game that they average, only shooting around 34% of them. But we knew that was their game plan coming in. Coach Morin talked about in the pregame. So it was nice to see that we really stepped our defense and started really closing out after that first quarter. And we held Tennessee Tech to 47 points. 47 points. This is a team that averages right at 69, 70 points per game. So again, under their season average as points per game for a team. So I think this is, again, just a theme we've seen from Coach Moore and teams, not just this year, but in, historically with her teams, is their defensive mindset and letting their defense kind of dictate how the game is going to go. And again, we held in the second and fourth quarters, we held them to 9 points and 8 points respectively. So 17 points over just 2.5 of the game, I think just says a ton about our defense and how they really buckled down after that first quarter, letting them score 18. Any thoughts on the defense overall, Jeff, today?
No, I mentioned it in my opening comments. I thought the first quarter was especially the first half of the first quarter. We were on pace to give up 28 in the first quarter, and that's not sustainable. And the other thing is expected, Kathy, I'll go away from the defense. They handle the pressure. They and again, press may not be as good as Ohio State's, but they only had 10 turnovers for the game, and a couple of those came a little bit later. Yarden had 5 of the 10, but I really felt like they handled the full court pressure pretty well. Their turnovers tend to be in the front court after they've broken down the pressure a little bit. They struggled to hit some shots in the first quarter. It kind of get right there at the very beginning of the second quarter. But just as this is what we expected. That's why that Ohio State second half was such a, I think we look back on it as such an anomaly that this was not a team that generally struggled with pressure. But it does show you that once it kind of gets inside your head, like it did that day against Ohio State, it's tough to get it out of you. But they've had a couple of weeks. I'm sure they worked a lot. They knew Tennessee Tech was going to press them. But so just again, as expected, this team handles, I know teams want to play that way, but it's not necessarily a team that you really want to press a lot.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I didn't think that press bothered us at all today. And back to your Ohio State, we played Ohio State 3 times, and I feel like sometimes reading some comments on Twitter or in other chat areas that sometimes some of our fans have forgotten that we handled Ohio State for 2.5 games. It was that one half though that was lingering with us to see if that was something that was going to continue. And I agree. I don't think it bothered them whatsoever today. Definitely not the caliber of press that Ohio State has for sure, but it still was a press nonetheless. And it was something Tennessee Tech is also known for, which is pressing. I didn't think there was any problem with it all. And I thought they attacked the middle of it a little better than they did in that second half of the Ohio State game. So definitely learned from that second half of the Ohio State. Other things that I think one expected, and we'll get to it probably more when we get inside the numbers, but just overall, I thought the team shared the ball really well today. They were really making that extra pass and finding the extra person to find somebody, whether it was out on the perimeter to take a shot or even to just drive the ball. But I just thought really finding people in transition and on their offensive end was something that really was highlighted today for our team.
Yeah, I would agree. I think again, just another thing that we come to expect with this team is sharing the ball and with that. So, but yeah, that's just the nature of this program. They're going to share the ball, and they got lucky a couple times. There was the one segment where I can't remember who threw the pass, but it was intended for one person, and it kind of got deflected and just and ends up in Alyssa Geary's hands.
Geary's hands, yeah.
So sometimes you got to catch a break. We saw that last night too. The 50-50 balls, the balls that kind of bounce one way or another, sometimes have to end up in your hands. But I felt like they got them off back once they got the lead. I felt like they kind of got Tennessee Tech back on their heels. Yeah, and it's tough to play that way.
Yeah, that sounds exactly right to me too. So let's just jump over to the surprises, Jeff. And then once we get to inside the numbers, I'm sure we'll talk more about things that weren't expected. But what kind of surprises did you have from the team today?
And this got brought up in the chat with the Workaholics a little bit here. If you're watching us on the YouTube live feed, we out rebounded them, which was to me is not an unexpected, but we gave up 13 offensive rebounds. That even I know Mac didn't play, but that's not a sustainable number going forward against some of the better teams we're going to see. Again, you're going to get either the 8 or 9 seed coming out of this next game, which again, hopefully, I won't try and give away too much in a later segment, but you can't give up 13 offensive rebounds in your second round game. You can't give up 13 offensive rebounds in the semis or in the regional. So they've got to find a way, whether Mac's playing or not, they got to find a way to clean up the offensive rebound. Now, part of that skewed. We shot so well. Once we finally got our game going, we shot 29 for 50 overall, 58%. So, I mean, there weren't a ton of offensive rebounds for us to have, but you still got to clean up a little better than that. That surprised me when I saw that number at the end of the game.
Yeah, I did too. The other surprise to me, actually, 100% on the rebounding. I mean, it's been a little bit of a theme all year. We're kind of watching as we go through some of these games with teams that are maybe a little stronger in the rebounding area. Today, again, we didn't need the offensive rebounds, only 2, because we did shoot 58%. But the thing that also surprised me was, and this probably sounds weird, but maybe not, but turnovers. For Tennessee Tech, we had forced 10 turnovers. And I was surprised at that number because I actually thought it was higher than that. It just felt like we had forced a lot more turnovers. And maybe it was because maybe we were forcing them, to miss a lot more shots, and we blocked a lot of shots. Maybe to me, those were feeling like turnovers. But it did feel like we had more than, the 7 steals that we were even accredited for, which is still a ton. But I was a little surprised to see they only quote unquote, only had 10 turnovers. But overall, I wasn't real surprised with much else of the game. But yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I'll kind of follow up here. Again, this is Steve Fisher and the Workaholics talking about this. I agree. You don't have to win every stat category. And I do think there was one thing that he points out with the 11 block shots. Some of those ended up back with Tennessee Tech. So that may have skewed the offensive rebounding numbers some, because when you have 11 blocks, even if only half of them go back to Tennessee Tech, that's 5 or 6 offensive rebounds right there. I would assume if it's being counted as a shot, there has to be a rebound. So Steve, kudos to you for kind of bringing that up in the chat. And that makes some sense when you look at the 13 offensive rebounds. But I thought, Kathy, and one thing you and I were texting about, no offense to the stat people we were trying to use to follow the game that normally, we weren't able. The IU website took us to something that we didn't like, and the other that we were trying to use doesn't give us a lot of things like points off turnovers and stuff. So we're kind of grasping for straws. But it did seem like we converted those 10 turnovers into points. And I don't have specific numbers, but at least eye test wise, it seemed like the few turnovers we forced, we turned those into points.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because I felt like, again, we don't have the numbers like Jeff said about, points and transitions and fast break points and things like that. But, I felt like we absolutely won the fast break contest here today. And I think a lot of those steals and turnovers that we did for 7 steals, again, I think that really turned into a lot of fast break points for us. So again, we don't have the exact numbers. We're going off of feel here, but it felt to me like we really did turn those, and we're very efficient with those 7 or 11, 10 turnovers rather. Sorry. Anything else in terms of surprises, Jeff, you want to talk about?
No, not really, Kathy.
All right. Well, we've already kind of started diving a little bit, so let's keep going on the number side of things. So what's the team number you want to announce?
Well, I'm going to go right off the bat and just talk about free throw shooting, and 14 of 18, 78%. And again, this has been a team that has routinely shot pretty well from the free throw line this year. And you would think in your own gym, you're going to shoot it a little better as well. So, but again, those 14 points came in handy. They made, and I pointed this out, I think last week on one of the men's games, the differential here, we made twice as many free throws as Tennessee Tech shot. We were 14 of 18. They were 3 for 6. So that's an 11-point number right there. And then again, against a team, a little better team, a higher seed, that could be a huge number if we're going to be like that. And I thought a lot of that came because the kids were aggressive going to the basket, especially in spurts. I thought there were times where they settled for jump shots a little bit, but I thought that getting to the free throw line for 18 free throws was a huge number.
Yeah, I agree. We were definitely really aggressive, and that seemed to be our game plan, which made a lot of sense, right? You could just see on the TV that we had quite the height advantage over this team and length like that. I think our length really, really bothered Tennessee Tech today, and rightfully so. And you could see coming into that second quarter, especially, I felt we really had a game plan of driving the ball. Even in the first quarter, I mean, we had them in foul trouble, and we're in the bonus in that first quarter with something like 6 minutes left in the first quarter, 6-7 minutes. So it was definitely helpful then. So and then not just that, but to get up there and make those free throws were important. So getting to the line is one thing, making them is very important. So the other stat, and I started talking about this a little bit in my as expected, which is sharing the ball. We ended up with 18 assists, which is right where we average as a team, which is amazing. It was 18 assists made to 29 made field goals. And that is just such a great ratio, I think, for this team, and bodes well. And what it doesn't tell us is the story behind all of the passes that came into the assists and the hockey assist, so to speak. And we saw that, and I thought a number of plays where we had, for example, in the third quarter, where Parrish had the ball, got it to Grace in the lane. Grace kicked it out to Yarden Garzon in the corner for a 3. And, that sparked a 5-0 run at the beginning of the third quarter to get us up 27-44. And we just had a number of those runs. And I think a lot of it was sparked by our just really crisp and good ball movement. But But any other thoughts on that, or do you want another stat you want to talk about?
Yeah, I found the IU website now has a little better stat line here since the game ended, Kathy. So I've kind of been trying to pull it up here a little bit. I'll just kind of go through these real quick. I can get your thoughts on these. I'll run through the numbers and then I'm gonna get your thoughts on them. I won't comment on so much. Second chance points. Tennessee Tech outscored us 5-2. Bench points. We outscored Tennessee Tech 17-11. And fast break points, Indiana. This is what I think this goes back to what we were talking about a little bit. I really want to get your reaction on this one. Fast break points, Indiana 29, Tennessee Tech 0. Did you hear me? Kathy?
Jeff?
You're there?
Kathy?
All right, we've lost Kathy for a second.
I
Kathy,
think
you there?
so.
Okay, so did you hear the numbers I gave you?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ.
So Kathy's having a little bit of a technical issue. And so, but 20, I'm not sure I've ever seen a game where somebody's outscored the other team 29-0 in fast break points. And I knew we were playing well, but I just didn't realize it was that well in transition from that standpoint. So I think one thing that goes with that is that this team, talking about breaking the press earlier, kind of as expected, that they attack the pressure. They don't just get it across half court usually and pull out toward the timeline and run something. If they've got an advantage, 2-on-1, 3-on-2, they attack. And that gets them also not only fast break points, but it gets them the line. Looks like Kathy's back. So I'm going to throw it back over here. Kathy, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? I can.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
So we're talking about, yeah.
All right.
So I was talking about fast break points. I want your thoughts on the fast break points, 29-0, fast break points, IU advantage. And also points in the paint, 44-16, and bench points 17-11.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That kind of backs up what we were kind of thinking before, which was our fast break points. Really, it felt like we were definitely pushing that ball in transition, and that completely backs it up. And I think it backs up our defense too. So no fast points for them at all. I think just talks about, what we get back in transition as well too. Although again, I didn't feel like we really gave up the ball a whole lot to even enable them to have a fast break opportunities anyway. So I thought that was really good. Points in the paint also, that just seemed like it was definitely trying something we were looking to do, right? Drive the ball. So all of those numbers are really backing up what we were kind of surmising at the beginning of the episode here. So I'm trying to get caught back up here. Sorry about that. I don't know what's
You're
going
good.
on.
It happens. It happens.
Technology is great when it works, right?
Yeah. And so while you're trying to get caught up a little bit there, I really don't have any other individual stats I want to talk about unless you do, because I want to kind of save those for when we get to talk about game ball and hustle awards.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a little bit. So, I thought Sydney Parrish in particular had just a fantastic second half in particular. So I think she had around 7 points in that first half, and she ended up leading the team with 19 points. She also came in got 8 rebounds for us as well, and contributed to the steal and a block. So the other thing, we kind of talked about a little bit were the blocks. 11 blocks was a ton for this team, especially with McKenzie being out. We had 3 from Lily Meister, 3 from Grace Berger, and a whole slew of people with 1 to get to 11 blocks. And again, I think that just backs up what we're talking about with, we just really had the length and the size and athleticism over Tennessee Tech in this game.
And Grace had 2, and Grace had 2 of them on 1 possession.
Yes, that's right. Although she was, got 3 there too as well. The other thing I was a little concerned about with Mac being out was fouling. And I thought the team did a nice job, because we've seen that in the last few games, how we ended the regular season and Big Ten tournament with some of our players getting into foul trouble. But I didn't see that today. The most we had was from Sydney Parrish with 3, but after that, people had either 0, 2, or only 1 foul. And so again, some of that is accredited to, it was a little less physical than a lot of the games we were ending with. But in general, I thought that we did a nice job of defending, but doing it cleanly as well. So those were a couple other stats I had.
We only finished with 10 fouls. They only had 13. I mean, there really was not a lot of fouling, and in the few fouls that seemed to occur really seemed to come
in the first
in the first half or on shooting fouls. But so that kind of explains some of the free throws for IU, especially. But yeah, both neither team, and I thought the officiating was pretty solid. I really did. I thought and like you were talking about, though, it wasn't a real physical game. That wasn't Tennessee Tech's kind of game. They're more of a finesse, get up and down, use their pressure. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out on Monday against whoever we play.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, with that, let's go ahead and transition over to game ball and hustle.
Whoops.
All right, Jeff, I'll let you kick it off with our game ball. Who would you like to give your game ball to today?
Give me a second, Kathy. I'm trying to get all the production work stuff up.
All right.
Here.
Thanks. So
no, you're fine.
Jeff's doing that. He's got the scroll there. So yeah, let me recap where we're at, and you can think about in case you don't know who you want to vote for.
No, I got it. I know who I wanted.
You got it. All right. Well, Mackenzie Holmes does lead us to 15. Grace with 6, Sydney with 3, Garzon with 3, Chloe with 2, and Sarah Scalia with 1. So we know Grace or Mackenzie won't get it today. So how about for you though? Who would you give your game ball today?
I already mentioned her already, and that's Grace Berger. I just think that I know she wasn't the leading scorer on the team, but you look at this stat line: 17 points on 6 of 9 shooting, 5 of 7 at the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal, and she committed 0 turnovers in 30 minutes. And I thought that Grace Berger, like I mentioned earlier, just Grace Berger making that decision as a leader that she was not going to let this team have anything happen to it today with their All-American out. And of course, she's an All-American too, but she was going to do what it took, whatever it took: pass, rebound, block shots, whatever. And so Grace Berger is going to get my game ball today.
Yeah, I'm actually going to second that, and we'll make it unanimous here. So Grace, for me, I thought she did all the things today. I tweeted that out from our Doing the Work account. We're definitely going to miss her, and I'm hoping we're going to continue seeing her for the next 3 weeks. But next year we will feel the lack of her presence, not because of her scoring, but because of all the things that Grace does. The scoring is just one facet of the game. There's the assists, again, you already mentioned, but she ended up with 4 assists today, leading the team there as well. And the lack of turnovers, again, less physical team helps quite a bit with that, but they were pressing, and there was always that chance of it. So I think this was just a fantastic game for Grace. And, it was great to hear the applause that she got when she sat down with about 6 minutes to go. So it was nice to see them get some rest, by the way, for our starters there towards the end.
And you mentioned that, and real quick, Kathy, you mentioned that nobody played over 30 minutes today. And again, that's kind of what you want to see in a game like today, but nobody played over 30 minutes. And I think that's a positive heading into Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great. We had we ended up with 11 players. So even without Mackenzie, we saw 11 players see the floor today, with Ariel Wisney getting in that last 2 minutes and 42 seconds. So really great, again, all around team effort. So let's transition with that and talk about some team effort, I think, and talk about our Hoosier Hustle Award. So Jeff's going to be bringing up here as well the scroll at the bottom if you're watching on YouTube. So we've had, again, this is just a testament, I think, to how well-rounded this team is, and we have had different players step up. So Sydney Parrish leads the way with 8 Hustle Awards. Chloe Moore McNeil right behind her with 7.5. Grace Berger with 4.5, Lily Meister with 3.5, Vargasor with 2, Sarah Scalia with 1.5, then 1 each for Geary, Garzon, and Caitlin Peterson. So Jeff, I think we could go a number of different ways here. So if you're listening live and you're in the chat, you might want to start thinking about your vote as well, in case we have a tie to break. So we'll see. Jeff, who goes first for your Hoosier Hustle Award?
Well, you pointed out Sydney Parrish, and I thought Sydney had a really good day. She had 2 assists, she had a steal, she had a block, she had 2 turnovers, unfortunately, but 8 rebounds. She led us in rebounding today, and again, that's just something we've come to expect. But I'm going to go more just because I think of what we talked about earlier, just the surprise of not knowing, because we didn't know until this morning. Ari was at the game, and he's been there, and I think he's even he texted me a little while ago about the Tennessee Tech coach. But we found out maybe 45 minutes before game time, Kathy, that were told that Ari told us that that Mac was limited. But I think if you watch that game and saw it on TV, there was no way, in my opinion, they had any intention of putting Mac into the game unless they absolutely, like, maybe we got behind by 10. I just don't think. She never took off her shooting shirt. From what we saw online and Twitter, she didn't participate in any of the stretching drills, anything like that. So I don't think they had any intention whatsoever. They gave the coach speak. She was available. All right. She was available. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing here because I should save that for a later segment. But I'm going to go Lily Meister here. Lily Meister, her first start of the year, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 3 blocks. And I kind of tweeted out at one point on my personal account, because Kathy was running the Doing the Work account today, that Lily Meister there I may have been the first quarter, first half, was doing TJD type stuff with the blocks, but she didn't get in foul trouble. This has been something she's battled all year as well. For the few minutes she's played, she had 1 foul and she played 20 minutes. So I'm going to go Lily Meister for my Hustle Award.
Yeah, absolutely. Good vote. Yeah, I think Sydney Parrish, definitely, I don't want to overlook her, right? Because especially that second half, I thought Sydney was incredibly important for our team. And I hope that leads her to continue that into the game on Monday. Again, 19 points leading the team, I thought was just fantastic. But Jeff, I'm going to make this unanimous. I had Lily written down already in that third quarter. Again, the pressure, I wonder, would get to her or not. And it just didn't seem like it. As I mentioned in my Hoosier Proud banner moment to open up our podcast, she got that ball down low and she just did what she did, and again, ended up with 7 points. She got all of those in the first half. She did it though on 3 of 4 shooting. She made her 1 free throw from the line that I mentioned as well when she got that end 1 attempt at the beginning. And I just think that it was really resounding effort from her to come in and give those 20 minutes. And between her and Alyssa Geary giving another 17, I thought that was very important with Mackenzie out. But I thought Lily definitely led the way between the two of them. And I also vote for her for my Hoosier Hustle Award. So that takes Lily Meister up to 4.5, tying her actually with Grace Berger for Hoosier Hustle Awards for the year. So Jeff, let's transition then into lingering question. I think we all know the biggest one. So let's go ahead and talk about probably Mackenzie Holmes, right?
Yep.
And where she's at and the impacts to her being out or not on Monday. So what are your overall thoughts with Mackenzie?
I think I texted this earlier in the group with you and Ari in the group chat, or I put it in the Workaholics, or I get 50-50 on Monday. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic at this point, but Kathy, you and I texted back and forth about this a little bit. She's been out they've been off 2 weeks. They had not played a game in 2 weeks, and yet she was held out for limited for precautionary reasons. That concerns me more and more. Now, maybe another week we'll get her healthy and they feel like they can play her. But I think it's one of those that you're going to kind of get the classic game time decision for her on Monday. And I think, possibly should we be able to win a 1-8, 1-9 matchup with Mackenzie out? Yes. Will it be tougher? Yes. Both things can be true. But I think you get into that regional, it really limits our ceiling if Mac isn't healthy enough to give us even a portion of what she gives us every night. Even if she only gives us 12 to 15 points a night and 5 rebounds, it's just that presence she brings out on the floor because other teams have to guard her. So obviously the lingering question right now is how hurt is she? How soon can she return, if at all? And then what does that mean for this team going forward?
Yeah, I agree. I was concerned about this after the Michigan State game, and especially watching the Ohio State game. That was definitely the biggest concern I had coming into the tournament. And I was really hopeful that with 2 weeks, she would be able to get a lot of good treatment, get some rest. And the fact that she didn't play, didn't even warm up today. Again, they probably knew, as you mentioned, at least last night that she wasn't going to play at all today. But it does have me pretty concerned at this point that we may not see her on Monday either at this point. And then it becomes, what is our new ceiling? Because I think we all have to agree that without Mackenzie, I think that changes the ceiling for this team and our expectations. And we just really need to temper those going forward because even if she plays, she may not be 100%. And, we saw last year, if you watch the team much, that McKenzie at 100% is not the same as McKenzie we saw here leading up into the Big Ten tournament. So that is, for me, absolutely the biggest lingering question. What other lingering questions do you have, though? Any of them?
Can you continue to get the same level of play? If she can't play Monday, can you continue to get the same level of play out of Lily Meister and Alyssa Geary that you got today? Or do you, I don't know. I haven't seen much of Oklahoma State or Miami, so I'm a little bit blind on them right now. Obviously we'll watch the game here a little bit this afternoon, or do you try to go a little smaller? Do you go with maybe a little smaller, because our guards are so big? I mean, when you look at, that's one thing they talked about on the broadcast quite a bit today. So if you're not, maybe you don't, if Lily or Alyssa don't have it or get in foul trouble Monday, can you go a little smaller? Because Grace Berger can post up, Yarden Garzon can post up, Sydney Parrish can post up a little bit, and then you play Scalia around the other four starters, and with the four starters, open it up and just see what you can do. But yeah, I think this right now, Terry Morin and her staff are going through a lot of plan B's, C's, D's right now about what they're going to do if McKenzie is not available on Monday and going forward, and depending upon when she is. But I think that's the other lingering question right now is, how do you, what's the lineup look like, and what kind of contributions can you get from those players?
Yeah, absolutely. Today we had that. We had, a number of players coming off of our bench and putting in some big minutes. And I think that just stresses the importance. Again, we definitely need some outside shooting to continue. Sarah Scalia, we didn't talk a whole lot about her, but she missed her 4 3-point attempts. And, I'm hoping that we'll start seeing those go down a little bit more. We're 5 of 16 on 3-pointers, and that's something, has been kind of hot or cold for this team. So hopefully we end up with a little bit better than 3-point, 31% that we had today. We averaged 37% on the year, but it seems to kind of come in a feast or famine kind of situation. And today we didn't need it. Obviously we won by 30 without it, and still made 5. And I just think that we're going to have to get a little bit more out of some of our bench players, especially I think Sarah and Alyssa Geary and Lily Meister going forward for sure. Any other link? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought you were done, and we're having a little bit of cross back here, but I think we got to shoot the 3 a little bit better. I mean, this is not a team that is going to live and die by the 3, but I think 5 for 18 tonight. We need to be closer to 7 of 18, 8 of 18, something like that. Just that little extra from beyond the arc will make a huge difference if McKenzie's not available.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, or should we kind of start talking about our next opponent that we don't even know who it is yet?
Yeah, let's go on and we'll get to what's next.
All right. I was just checking. So it doesn't look like, so their next opponent will be the winner of Miami and Oklahoma State. So that just tipped off. Their Oklahoma State is up 3-2, basically 3 minutes into that. So haven't done a whole lot of deep diving into either one, but we can talk a little bit. Let's first start with Oklahoma State. So again, if you're wanting to watch that, you can, after our podcast here, that game between Oklahoma State and Miami is airing right now on ESPN. So the fun thing with Oklahoma State is Yarden Garzon's sister, Lior, actually plays for them. So if, Oklahoma State ends up beating this Miami team, then we'll have sister against sister. So Oklahoma State finished 21-11 in the regular season. They finished 10-8 in the Big 12. In their Big 12 conference tournament, they lost to Texas in the semifinals, 57-64. Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about their scoring or anything else about Oklahoma State?
I really don't know much about them. I thought it was interesting that they had the discussion between the Garzon sisters about how you're supposed to actually pronounce the last name.
Yeah, they disagree on it.
Yeah, they disagree. But anyway, they're averaging about 75, 76 points a game. They're led by Naomi Initis. I hope I'm saying that right. Initis with 13.8. They have 3 players in double figures, but no big 20, 22 point type score, but I'm sure they've got a good balance. The Texas, by the way, that loss, Texas won the Big 12. They won the Big 12 tournament. So, that's not a bad loss for Oklahoma State in the semis there as well. But it's a team that Oklahoma State has traditionally been in the tournament. I remember seeing them several years ago We happened to go down to Purdue. This is probably 10 or 12 years ago now. Purdue was hosting a first and second round game, and Oklahoma State was part of that group that was there. And I saw a little bit of them, but I don't, so it's a team that's been a traditionally kind of middle, a little bit, maybe top third, Big 12 team.
Yep. That sounds right. So, so they have about 3 players that average in double digits. So you already mentioned their leading scorer, Lior Garzon, is 10.9 next on the team, and then Taryn Milton is 10.2. So they do have 3 players and that average in double digits for the season. And they have a couple of players as well, just behind them with just under 10 points per game. Then they have one Talon Collins who averages around 8 rebounds per game. I'm trying to find their team in terms of how they do as a team rebounding here. So it looks like they average right around 37 rebounds per game. So so it seems like maybe that match up fairly well with them. So we'll see. They average 76 points per game. So can we hold them under that again if we end up playing them is probably always going to be our biggest question. And then rebounding and turnovers. Let's move on to Miami, I guess. And then unless you had anything else on Oklahoma State you wanted to touch on. Okay.
Nope.
Miami, the fun thing here, I guess, for Indiana fans is if we play Miami, we'll have the men playing Miami tomorrow and then the women turning around on Monday and playing Miami. Real quick side note, they haven't released the times or the channel for our Monday game, so we don't know. We think that the game would probably be most likely sometime in either the late afternoon or into the evening time frame. So just keep an eye out on ESPN to see what channel they end up picking on. And it will be one of the ESPN channels. We just don't know which one. Okay. Sorry. We'll go on to Miami. So Miami finished 19-2 in the regular season, 11-7 in the ACC conference. They too lost in their semifinals of their conference tournament. They lost to Virginia Tech 42-68. And again, for those of you who follow women's basketball, Virginia Tech did get one of those number 1 seeds. So not surprising that they really fell pretty hard to a very, very good Virginia Tech team. What else do you want to talk about with Miami?
Yeah, again, another team that to kind of, it's all has been in the tournament several years and maybe not in a row, but they're a team that's battling to be in the tournament or right around there. They do have the 2 girls, the twins or the sisters. They're big NIL people. Cavender, you looking at the roster, Cavender, is that right?
Cavender, yeah.
Yeah. The 2 sisters, they're big and they're like the most popular, something I remember seeing this online. They are big on on YouTube. Yeah. They are. Now I'm not saying they can't play. I'm just saying that this is the agent of NIL. They are a couple of the highest earners of NIL money anywhere in the women's game because of their following on YouTube and Instagram. They are averaging.
Haley and Hannah. And Hannah. Those are the names of Cavenders. Yeah.
They're averaging about 71 points a game. Oh, here it is. And Haley leads them in scoring at 12.6 and then followed by Destiny Harden at 12. But other than that, I really don't know much. I do want to go back real quick, Kathy, because Ari texted us a little bit in the group and he says he's going to try and get this up. He's got a column, so I'm assuming this is public knowledge. In fact, you had already put it on Twitter that this was according to Terry Moore on Mackenzie Holmes, limited all week. Was available for emergency today. Optimistic she'll play Monday.
Okay.
So I wanted to follow that up a little bit.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. And still no time or channel listed for Monday. So, okay. So Miami. Yeah. So we talked about their scoring in terms of rebounding as a team. Just trying to look here real quick. They average around 38 rebounds per game as well. So pretty even. In case folks aren't sure too either, our rebounding is around 37 rebounds per game. So it seems like in terms of rebounding, we're pretty well matched with both of those teams. Just see what else do we like to talk about. Turnovers. Miami looks like quite a few, 16 turnovers per game they average. Trying to find it for Oklahoma State,
but do remember those rebounding numbers for us are with Mackenzie Holmes averaging what she does.
Yeah. And then, okay, here we go. Oklahoma State averages right around 13 or so turnovers per game. So, so that's always something we like to watch as well, because we typically force our teams into around 16 or so turnovers. So, Anything else you want to highlight with either of these teams? Again, that game right now is on ESPN. So after you're done with us, you can go flip that on and take a shot at looking at one of our opponents and do your own scouting report, I suppose, on either one of them.
Just gotta, this is one of those maybe where we need a good crowd Monday night, because a good crowd maybe to help push the kids over a little bit. But again, this is a team, even without Mac being fully healthy or not playing, is a team that can win some games in the tournament. Now, I think it, again, limits the ceiling, but it's a team that can win games. They've got veterans. They've got kids who've played in big games before. So it's just a matter of executing the game plan that they come up with.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, with that, I guess we can move on to talking about some programming notes. I did just get a text across for those of you who are home field apparel fans. They do have a Fairleigh Dickinson shirt now out there for your collection. So if you so choose, so you can go ahead and check that out.
I don't know if it was a parody or true or somebody made it up, but somebody was saying they were like late last night after the game, we're trying to make get a deal with Fairleigh Dickinson. So
I saw that on their Twitter account. Yeah. So I knew we all knew that was coming. So anyway, again, and if you haven't shopped at Home Field again, and this is how you want to start your home field apparel collection, you can use our code HOME, HOME, to get 15% off of that first order. But back to us. So Jeff is still keeping us updated about Hoosier alums out in the community and on the Twitter feed about how our alums are doing in the professional career. We know Alexa Gulbe is out there right now playing. Is that a tournament that she's playing in, Jeff, over in Europe?
They're in the it's very similar to soccer, Kathy, where you have your national team, your national league, like the Premier League for soccer. Spain and the all other countries all have their own national leagues, but the top teams qualify for what they call Euro League, and they qualified based on what they did last year for this year's Euro League. So right now they're in the quarterfinals of the Euro League playoffs. Then they had to qualify for that. They had to finish in the top two of their group. And so they had their second game yesterday, and I was able to find that. I got lucky to find it on YouTube. I had a place on a website had put a link to it on YouTube. So I was able to find it and put it on the community, but she played about 6-7 minutes. She doesn't usually get as much time in the Euro League action as she does in the Spanish League, but it's now kind of that point where they're going to have a lot of games. They played twice this week in the Euro League. Split. They have a game tomorrow, I think, in the Spanish League, and then they got to turn around and play game 3 a little bit later this week in that Euro League tournament. So if they win that, they'll advance. If they lose, they'll be done. But yeah, so she's playing. Tyra Buss and Amanda Cahill have both had good years, but they've been off for a little bit. The Amanda's League actually getting ready for the playoffs. They don't start though for like another week, and then Jory Davis is playing in Italy and has played okay, but she's also been at times coming off the bench at times she started. And then Nicole Cardano Hillary's team right now, they are kind of in that middle of the pack. They won't qualify for the Spanish League playoffs unless they can kind of put a little bit of a run together here. And that season is got about another month left from what I can tell.
Yeah. So real quick, Jeff, I'm going to jump back into our lingering questions, and then we'll wrap things up again. So Eagle Eye says he kind of hopes Coach Terry Moran keeps Holmes out unless absolutely necessary on Monday. Do we all agree? Of course, it's hard to say, not knowing exactly what her medical information, which is obviously none of our business, but she has carried a lot of the load this year. So what are your thoughts on this? Because you never know with that 8-9 game. Miami and Oklahoma State, I think, are absolutely going to be much tougher opponents than what we saw in Tennessee Tech today. And we can't afford to lose the game, right? I mean, we're in postseason. It's win or go home. I would love to see us be able to rest her, but I feel like if she's available to play, I think she's going to probably start the game because we need a strong start, and then maybe you get out to a lead and then sit her. But what are your kind of thoughts? And again, it's hard not to know, or hard for us to say without knowing exactly her situation. But
yeah, and Terry Moran is famously very tight-lipped about injuries. There's not much going to come out other than she'll be unavailable, or as we talked about earlier, being 50, optimistic she can play on Monday. I think if she's healthy, she starts, because I think you don't want her to set. Excuse me. I don't think you want her to set and let it kind of stiffen up on her. Now, Ari did tell us in the group text, that they had like an elliptical machine over on behind the bench. So that would be a way to keep her loose. I would assume when she's not on the floor, if she can play. like I said, right now, my gut is it's 50-50 she plays. And I'm almost leaning toward, I'll be surprised if she does play. I think this is a little more than what we unfortunately, and Joel, our good friend Joel, pointed out on Twitter that all of a sudden the vibes become 1993. And I hope that's not true. Again, I think we have veteran kids that can make plays and will find a way. But I'm just getting it. Like I said, she's been out 2 weeks. I don't know how another 36 to 48 hours gets her a whole lot healthier, except you assume she's getting a ton of treatment. And Eagle, I agree with you. We don't know her, and with the HIPAA laws, we don't know what it is. But, part of what we do on the podcast is speculate. And right now, I'll be very pleased if I see her, but I'm leaning toward, I'm not sure we'll see her Monday night.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm not sure what to expect, but yeah, I still think if she's available, at least she starts the game, for a couple of reasons. One, to get her back in and see how it is. It's one thing to play in practice, even scrimmage in practice is another thing to do it in a game time situation against two pretty good opponents. So,
and
all right,
you might as well find out early whether she can get them down the floor or not. That's another reason to start her.
You haven't already. Oh. I think Jeff and I are talking at the same time, but you can follow us on Twitter at Doing the Work. Just search for us there. You can also find us in the Simply Call community page if you're not part of our, keep you updated in both areas there. So between myself and then Ari, of course, who does a lot of posting in our private community and different articles. So we'll try to keep you updated. Again, we will be on, maybe potentially, depending, because both Jeff and I also have real daytime jobs. So we both have to work on Monday. So depending on the game Monday, we may or may not be on right after the game. It may have to be a delayed podcast because they want us to work so we can still get our paycheck. So in case you're going into podcasting, it doesn't pay a whole lot, in case you're not concerned or not sure. But keep an eye again on that Twitter account and we will keep you updated. On the men's side is Simply Call. We'll be on tomorrow on Sunday after the Miami game. They will have their post-game show. That game time tips at 8:40 Eastern and 7:40 Central.
We hope.
Yeah, depending on how the other previous games. So most likely much later. So also we part of our back home network is Crimson Cast. So if you don't follow them, they have a lot of podcasting going on the men's side, especially, but Amanda Foster also on the women's side. So follow them as well. Again, our next show will be, we are not sure, sometime Monday. That's all we got for you.
Hey, Kathy,
all right,
Kathy, just thought about this. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to see IU play Miami in the second round with both teams?
Yes,
I'm not really caring who they play, but I think that'd be kind of cool if IU could play Miami and the men on Monday or on Sunday, turn around, play the Miami women on Monday.
Yeah, I think so too. I think either way, you got some fun storylines, right? You have that Miami versus Miami both times. And if we play Oklahoma State, I was just checking the score. Oklahoma State's now up 19-10 at the end of the first quarter. The Oklahoma State, of course, you have the Garzon versus Garzon sister situation. So that would be interesting, especially it would be really interesting if they have to guard each other. So I think you have some fun storylines in either of those opponents. But I think we can move on to last call, Jeff, if you are ready for it.
Hang on just a second.
All right. So as I alluded to, it is now time for last call, Jeff. So what is on your mind as we wrap up things today from our first NCAA tournament?
You're just trying to win 6 in a row at this point. And they got number 1 down. And to me, that's really where the focus is. I know we talked about Mac a lot. I know we've talked a lot about, whether she'll play, but at the end of the day, right now, it's about winning 6 in a row when you start the tournament. They checked off number 1 today. Let's go get number 2 on Monday, and we'll just kind of go from there. But again, it doesn't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter how many points. Today was a 30-point win. Would we have been sitting here going, man, I can't believe we only won by 1? But at the end of the day, in this tournament, it only matters that you survive and advance. And they did that today, and now they just got to win 5 more.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought, survive and advance. And I thought we did it in a resounding fashion, right? We came out a little tight, maybe a little slow in that first quarter, letting them tie us 18-18 with the 3-pointers, and our defense maybe not quite as tight as what we'd see it. But as always, we tightened it up and just really came out and just put the game away pretty quickly in those last 3 quarters. So it's what we've been seeing from this team all along. And we did it without our first team All-American with Mackenzie Holmes and leading scorer. And, the other thing I thought was nice to see from Mackenzie is, Lily went to the bench one time and they showed her sitting over there counseling Lily.
Mhm.
And so I think this bodes well for the future of our program too. So we have very big picture items and themes going on with our team right now. And it's just, again, a fun team to watch. And I'll continue watching them. Hopefully we'll all continue watching and talking about them for the next 3 weeks. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up completely. So if you do want to see us do the live show, if you're not here with us right now, you can be part of our live chat by subscribing to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/assemblycall. I alluded to our private community as well. You can join there too as well at assemblycall.com/community. So that's a lot of fun. You get a lot of updates, not just during the basketball season, but throughout on any kind of recruiting news and things going on. We try to talk about women's basketball, men's basketball, football, baseball. There's a lot of good conversations going on over there. Special thanks to John Ringer of Riggs Design for designing our new logo that you can see. And then also a huge thanks to Bob Thompson, who is created our new music that you heard throughout the broadcast. But most of all, please let you know, thank you to all of you that are listening either live or afterwards on whatever podcast feed or YouTube feed that you want. So we'll be back to talk IU hoops with you again, though, on Monday at some point. And then until then, keep your elbow in, your eyes on the rim, and let's go Hoosiers.
All righty.
All right, where are we at now? So, 19-12 Oklahoma State. So early. So flip that game on and see how it's going on. It'll be fun. So
yeah. So hey, I'll be available Monday. We'll talk a little bit more on Monday about what happens for the next week on the next weekend, because I'm not sure when they'll play if they get to the regional. So I'll know a little more. But I know I'm going to be in Spokane.
Okay.
For at least 3 days, about 3.5 days. So
all right.
I might be able to watch and join in. I don't know. So it's just a matter where I might be able or hop in for a little bit, but you might be able, start thinking a little bit about, somebody who can help you out a little bit. So, but I want to thank everybody, and hey, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. The one nice thing about a 10:30 game Central Time was I can enjoy the rest of the Saturday.
Yes. So we don't have to be like it was on the men's side where they have to sit around all day and wait for this. So it was good to get this out, and 30-point win is still fantastic. It's just amazing. Yeah.
But they were on at like midnight last night. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it sure was. So.
All right, Kathy.
All right. Well, thanks everyone.
We'll see you guys Monday.